This is Dan Abbott. I am making this video from my parametric modeling class at Southern Maine Community College. And I want to demonstrate how you can attach a profile to a path when you're doing a swept solid in SolidWorks. This is what we're after, just a cotter pin we're going to put into an assembly. What I'm going to do is go over here, I'm going to get rid of this sweep by deleting it. And then I'll get rid of the profile sketch by deleting it. And I'll get rid of the plane I put that on by deleting it. So what I'm starting with now is just a path. Now this is very easily drawn based on the, here it is, based on the handout that I gave you. I've given you dimensions, even though it's absurd to give dimensions on a little part that's going to be bent by hand, but I want it fully defined so you can use those dimensions. So there's the path. There's the profile. What I want to do is attach that profile to the end of the path, and I want it attached very accurately so the midpoint of that arc is touching the end of the path and is 90 degrees to a line drawn from the end of that arc tangent to the arc. That's called normal to. And if I don't put this profile on there normal to that arc, it's going to be skewed slightly as it goes around and it won't give me the correct shape. If it's not attached, it either won't work at all, or it will also give me a shape that is not quite right. So what I want is for the midpoint of the arc, represented by that letter D or half circle, to be attached to the end of that arc. And that sometimes is tricky in SolidWorks to get that attachment to take place. So a couple of suggestions for how you can make that happen. First, we're going to put the, I think it was on the back side, so we'll put it there. First, we're going to put reference geometry on. I'm under Features. In the Features tab, I go to Reference Geometry. I'm going to put a plane in place, and I'm going to select that arc as my first reference. And it's just going to take a plane and put it flat on the arc. Second reference point, I'm going to pick the end of that arc, and now that plane, I'm going to accept that, that plane is normal to the end of that arc. And normal to the end of that arc means that it is 90 degrees to a line drawn from the end of the arc tangent to it. It comes out as 90 degrees all the way around. Now when I look at that, I can look straight at it if I want by looking up here to the view tool and then going to normal tool, and it's looking straight at it. Sometimes when you do that, you're looking at the wrong side of the plane. In this particular case, I'm not. I'm looking at the right side. That's really what I want. If I wanted to look at it from the other side though, I could go over here to the feature tree, right click, and then I could pick the flip normal tool. Nothing appears to happen yet, but now when I pick the plane and then say, I can just press the space bar and then say show me this plane normal to, now you'll notice I'm looking at the back side of it. I don't want to look at the back side in this case, so I'm going to go back over here, right click, flip the normals once again. Then I'm going to pick the plane, hit the space bar, normal to, so now it's coming around the way I want. The problem is when you're looking right at it, there's kind of a lot of things going on and it doesn't seem to want to light up the end of your arc. Even though you bring it down and it's right there, it doesn't quite seem to line up. It is sometimes easier to start by putting a sketch on that plane and placing a point there. So if I put a point there, that allows me to snap like that. Now sometimes you can snap even the midpoint. You can make a relationship between the midpoint of the arc and that end of that arc, but sometimes you can't, and people have had a lot of trouble with that. Just kind of make this a little bigger. I'm not trying to move this plane, I'm just trying to stretch it out a little bit so the edges aren't in my way. Now what I'm going to do is put this so I've got a circle where the circle is touching this, and in order to make sure it's the midpoint, I find it easiest when I'm doing something like this to put a center line in, have the center line go to that point, and then come out horizontally and make that 6. Now you want to put a dimension on it, because if you don't put a dimension on it, it won't be 6. So I have the dimension on here. In other words, it'll draw at 6, but without the dimension it doesn't make a relationship. Now I'm going to put a circle in place. And I'm going to make the circle at the midpoint of this and then come over and have it snap to that point that I put in. Now, you'll notice that this is black, it's fully defined, and I need just now to put a line down through it from the quadrant of the circle here to the quadrant of the circle there. And then I can trim it out and then I can sweep it around. I don't actually need to trim it at this point. What I could do is use a contour sweep, but I'm going to trim it anyway. So when I trim it, get rid of that, get rid of this, you'll notice it's still fully defined because that's been snapped to this. So now I don't have to go in there and try to make a relationship between the midpoint of the arc and the end of that other arc. Everything's fully defined, it's in place, and now I can just go back over here, go to Features, do a Swept Boss or Base. There we go. Pick the profile, which is what I want first. Oops, I got to get out of here first. Yeah, let me get out of the sweep. I need to be outside. In other words, I need to complete this sketch. So I'm going to exit the sketch. So I need to exit the sketch. Now that I'm outside of the sketch and I've got both a profile and a path, now I can go to Features, Swept Boss or Base. When it opens up, pick the profile, then pick the path. Bingo. I've got a cotter pin as it goes right around.